59 with a bullet, Sound of Silence. And I said to myself, my life is irrevocably changed. And it was, you know. I knew then that it would never, that everything would be completely different.
When did you first see that change?
In the first year of Simon and Garfunkel, I probably made more money than my father made his whole life, his whole career, you know? It was...
What did that do to your songwriting?
It didn't have any effect on my songwriting. I wasn't interested in the money. I was interested in, you know, having songs, making records. It meant I could make another album. It meant, you know, the song would be, eventually became #1, The Sound of Silence. So it meant that the follow-up was probably going to be, you know, successful. And then we were recording songs that I wrote when I was in England. Homeward Bound and I Am a Rock. Those were songs that I wrote in England. And of course, I loved to record and I loved to write. And writing was easy then. And I, you know, had an open heart and I was young and everything that I wrote about was sort of what people were thinking in my generation. So I was effortlessly in tune with my own generation. So I mean, it was just I couldn't have been happier or doing something that I wanted to do more than to be 24 years old, 25 years old, and making, you know, making music and being in the music business and traveling and touring and all that.
We've mentioned your father several times. He was a musician. Talk a little bit about the influence that he, you know, had on you. You grew up with a mother who was an English teacher, a father who was a musician.
My mother was an elementary school teacher. My father became an English teacher. My father was a musician his whole life until in his 50s. He got a PhD in linguistics and went on to teach at City College. But as a musician, he was a bass player and a band leader. So the music that he played was, you know, I mean, I guess he sort of grew up out of the big band era. So that's when he was a kid. That's what he played, and then he played club dates, you know, dance music. He had a band at Roseland for 25 years. Every Thursday afternoon, his band would be there, and he shared the bill with a Latin band. And when we were kids, it was a treat. We would come into the city. We called it. If you lived in Queens, you called it going into the city. Went into the city and see Dad play, and then when I became a teenager, and you know, in the time of Hey School Girl and all that, I occasionally would play with him on some shows, you know. And I don't think he was consciously teaching me how to be a band leader, because I don't think he wanted me to be a band leader or a professional musician my whole life, not when I was a teenager anyway. But I certainly did learn how to be a band leader from my father, who was a band leader, you know. And for example, he would say to me, I programmed this set by keys, which key I play the song in. So this song is an E flat, then it goes, this is a B flat song, then I'll go, and the logic of it was a harmonic logic of how how songs led into each other by keys. Well, that's what I do with albums.
Huh.
You know? And that might have been a piece of information that I would have discovered anyway, but he gave it to me at a very, very early age. It's an interesting piece of information. You know, so, I mean, as I'm working on albums, not so much when I was working with Simon and Garfunkel, when I wrote almost always in the guitar keys, you know. But for a long time, I'll get to a certain point in an album and I'll say, I need a song that's in a flat key. Let's say maybe I should have one in F or E flat or something like that. And that's what I need here in this tempo. and that'll connect up the flow of how these songs preceding it and following it will be connected. Of course, now one of the unfortunate things about the revolution in how people listen to music is that they don't listen to albums as a piece anymore, and there are things about that I think are good. But one of the things that's bad about it is that if you work in that form, and you're thinking of something like 10 or 12 songs or 45 to 60 minutes, something like that, you're gonna imagine that arc in a certain way, and then the keys of the songs become an important element in it, as well as time signatures and tempo and things like that.
Now, you have said.
Oh, by the way,
yes.
Just to go back for a second.
Yeah.
When I said that, it's unfortunate. That's an unfortunate consequence of the way people listen. I was thinking of iPods and songs on shuffle. But one of the great things about your iPod, if you have a really eclectic taste, is essentially what you're hearing is that very same thing. Songs with totally different textures, one key for another key. You jump. I mean, really, it's impossible for a solo artist to be as interesting as going from Fats Domino to Django Reinhardt to Miles Davis to the Swan Silvertones. So, I mean, people programming all of these different songs is really stimulating their listening in a way that I tried to do as an album artist. I tried to be interesting in that way. I tried to think of people's attention span and what they would sort of want at a certain point. Really, not so much what they would want, but what I would want. And I would think, well, if I want it, it must be. There probably is going to be some other people who are going to like it as well.
Now, you've said that you hear music and lyrics as two separate conversations that you then put together in a song. How does that work?
Well, it really is that in everybody's songs, because there are two elements in a song. Obviously, there's the music, and then there's the words. So the music is saying one thing, and the words are usually saying the same thing. Sometimes they don't. Sometimes they say something that's opposite. You could have a sad melody and a happy lyric, which would give you an irony about the lyric and make you understand that there was more than one meaning that was occurring as you were listening. But because I write... Well, that's good. I didn't want that anyway. When I first started to write, I would basically play whatever it is that I learned on a guitar, and that's what it would be. So if I learned how to finger pick, then I would play a song like that, and then whatever melody occurred to me, I would improvise against that melody. After years and years of doing this, I reached a certain point where every time I began to write, I'd say, that's not interesting enough, or I'm stuck with my ability to play and sing simultaneously, which made me write songs that were simple on the guitar, like slip, sliding away, sliding away. You know, the nearer your destination, the more you'll slip sliding away. So that song is...